All right, so this is Jason Coposky. He's going to talk about the consortium update he's got 15 minutes. Let's see how he does.
I can beat that. Pharaoh's got jokes because I always talk too fast. So, well, thank you. So I'm Jason Coposky. I'm the executive director of the iRODS Consortium. For those of you that are new to this community, and welcome. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the business of the past year and our consortium activities, and then I believe we're rolling directly into the technology update after that. So for those who don't know, the iRODS Consortium is a sustainability model that we have wrapped around this software that has become so important to everybody. So the goal of this organization is to support the community as well as provide the development activities around this software known as iRODS. We are housed at the Renaissance Computing Institute, which is an applied research organization, which is part of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So we are all university employees and we do business as the university. And the goal here is not necessarily to make money, but as I said, effectively to support this software far, far into the future. Our mission is simple and yet important, the first of which is continuous improvement. That is for the software itself, of course, but not only the software, but the processes around this organization. So the goal here is to grow this community, which is important because that brings more voices to the table and helps us to remain relevant into the future as we can see into the future and address the community's needs as they arise. Part of that is, of course, standardization. So we will have any number of participants who show up with ideas. Everyone's ideas are largely implemented differently, if you will. And the goal here is to provide standardization around that. So as an organization, we can then support the community going forward with those particular activities. And of course, to show value to our membership. This software has over a 20-year history at this juncture, founded in 2013 by Renzi, the original authors of the DICE group, originally out of San Diego, and DVN is our first sustaining member. We accepted the code base in 2014 and have been solely responsible for working on that code base going forward, of course, with many community additions. And as of last night, we have had 41 releases of iRODS to date. So that is an impressive number. We have gone from DDN to nearly 30 members at this juncture, and I'm always quite happy with the breadth of our membership. We have enterprise customers such as Bayer, to storage vendors such as one of our new members, SoftIron, of course, to the Wellcome Sanger Institute, as well as a number of universities around the world and HPC centers such as TAC. So this membership is really what makes this community work, where we can gather all these voices together, as I said, sit around a table and make decisions around how this software is going to move forward. In the past year, so we've had 21 membership renewals. So thanks to everybody for all of your support. This is really what helps move this community forward. We've had 3 new memberships, which is great given the fact that nobody has gone anywhere for nearly 2 years at this juncture. We are currently maintaining 6 new service contracts. We've stopped counting the number of proofs of concept we participate in, and we have had all of 4 conferences and events. So this is down from nearly 25 in 2019, I believe. So I have not seen the inside of an airplane in quite a long time. We would like to welcome our new members. So that will be SoftIron, who builds self appliances, the University of Minnesota and their supercomputing center there, and one anonymous member. So part of the consortium activities, which we'll hear about later, is what we call our working groups. And these are targeted specifically to a particular topic. And I believe this is where a lot of the really good consortium activities happen. So we have had an authentication working group, which has involved a number of members and various institutes all over the world. And the idea here with that particular activity is to focus on how we can manage identity through these various federated services and into iRODS all the way down to the data access and authorization. And so we've been focusing on OIDC to start, as well as supporting much more complex PAM stacks on the back end there. And that has actually driven a lot in the way of the plugin interfaces into iRODS. And I believe that has been quite successful with a number of proofs of concept that has come to fruition there. We have an ongoing metadata templates working group. And that activity is focused around how we can present and manage metadata in a much more structured fashion, in an outward-facing fashion towards the user, which gives us the ability to take a template wrapped around these particular data objects or collections and then present those to the users. This is still an ongoing activity, and we have run into a number of I would say complications there around how to actually manage those templates, on the back end. And in this past year, we've also initiated an imaging working group. So we are just in the process of getting that started, but we have seen a lot of interest in microscopy and these other different imaging technologies, integrating with iRODS in a way that will give us the ability to automate ingest from the edge and these instruments all the way through the processing of those pipelines. And Terrell is going to talk about that a little bit later. As you can see, the details will be following us in the technology update. So for the past year in the 2020-2021 efforts, we have been continuing to work with building localized iRODS users groups. That is, of course, slowed down quite a bit with the pandemic, but the idea here is that we really need to build this local interest in order to sustain this global community. So we can't manage all of these things just with one single user group, and we hopefully can build some more interest locally within these different regions or countries in order to bring this whole global community together. One thing that we have been working on is broadening our focus with partnerships. And so you may have noticed at Globus World that we are now working with Globus on supporting the iRODS plugin, or the connector, I believe is the correct terminology, in order to provide access through Globus for data movement straight into and out of iRODS. And that is a partnership that we will continue into the future. And as a community, we'll continue to support that piece of technology. We have been also working with other system integrators around the world in order to broaden our footprint out into regions that we just simply can't put boots on the ground, such as Pacific Tech and EIT and CSIR, as well as ThinkPark, who support BGFS. And that has brought back a new use case to us that has reappeared, if you will, in simple data movement, which will give us focused around storage sharing, which will, in which we move data basically into and out of scratch storage space. So between that and the data discovery activities, that has been, a very interesting number of engagements that I think are going to be quite helpful going forward. And within Rentsy, our home organization, we have been participating in a number of proposals locally as well. So as an organization, our business model is very straightforward. So we typically start with a proof of concept. So this could be driven by specific use cases, like I said, with data movement. We can work with users who are specifically hands-on. We also provide service and support contracts. If you need some help to bootstrap that particular use case, we're happy to put hands on keyboards and help you there. The consortium is largely sustained by 4 membership models, starting at $10,000 to $150,000, which will get you anywhere between 10 to 300 hours of support out of the box, and specifically participation in the community. So we are not selling anything. You are joining a community when you participate in the consortium. And that gives you the ability to participate in the software roadmap, bring those use cases to the table so we can maintain relevance within the the particular environment that you might need. And we also provide a discounted hourly rate. So as a membership, if you need additional service and support Maybe you have a new project that you need to bootstrap, or you have a particular problem you want to address, or even a new storage plugin that you want us to write. We'll be happy to help you with that. As I said, we're also working with these tier 3 system integrators out there. So, or system integrators where we will provide tier 3 support, and we're happy to back them up as well. So ultimately, what we're here to do is to gather that feedback. So if you have questions, please hit us in the Slack channel. Comments, criticisms, complaints. We're here to take all of that feedback and definitely follow that process of continuous improvement. And Carol was gesturing directly at a question in Slack. Are you aware of any efforts to use content addressing by hash or using IPFS, IPLD for storing and accessing data in iRODS? So the answer to almost every question is probably yes, and it's going to be policy driven. If you want to address content using something like that, that would effectively just be metadata within the system itself. Now, specifically using hashes, a hash for a particular data object is actually what we would consider system metadata, not just user-defined metadata as an attribute value unit. But you can absolutely address any of your content by hash just simply by attaching that to the object within the catalog, and then you can immediately query the catalog for that particular data object or collection. So hopefully that answers your question.
Could it also be a plugin? You have an IPFS plugin?
As a storage backend, sure. I mean, IPFS is based on distributed hash tables effectively. So, that's, as a technology. So, but, anything that could be mounted, as a file system, we can certainly work with. The interesting part with that is that we typically present data as a virtual file system, and none of that would really be human readable because everything is addressed by hash, much like WAS, or any other typical object store like that. So yes, but it would be an interesting use case. I'd like to hear more about that. All right, well, thanks so much.
I will monitor. Oh, we gotta, it's a prompt to see if we can stump Jason. I don't know if it's gonna happen. What about, we'll give him 10 seconds. I don't think it's gonna happen. All right. All right, thanks, Jason. And any other questions, you can follow up in Slack, and we'll continue to monitor that as we go through the day.